This is family history in the making, right here.
Right here.
This is how I got so fat, right there in that bowl.
Best cake we ever had.
It's called real food.
Yeah, this is good.
Ooh, looks yummy to me. Nice red color.
So pretty for Christmas time.
This is Brendan's holiday birthday.
The heck with Brendan.
It's going to be red and white. It's his 4th of July because he is a 4th of July baby born on the 5th.
So he's a 5th of July baby.
No, he's a 4th of July baby born on the 5th.
Now take the big.
Who is that? What are you up to, Carmen?
Sitting there in my hospital room.
Did you find a nice place to play? Is he safe? He looks pretty fun, huh? Okay. What do you have to say? What's that baby girl?
Big and that doctor put her to sleep and delivered them babies, but Mama, they'd send everybody away from the house that was there except the little, that doctor and that nurse. And Mama went up there and picked through a crack in the door, and she said that that doctor just literally let that woman die. She believed she died. She had twins and both of those babies died, and she died. That was her first children, and it was a young couple. And Mama just seen so much in her life, she just spread it out. And since I got older, I kind of believe the doctor did the best he could under the circumstances, because he just didn't have much to work with. And but Mama, she had a bad time, really, but she'd had a bad time all her life. I thought I had a bad time, but Mama had it worse than I did. You know, I believe that as I was coming up, the times were really hard. We hear older people say, "Oh, you got it big and easy," because I had it so hard. And I try not to go around and make that sound like I was immortal or anything. But I do see that times get better as time goes on, and we see that there's more money in circulation and more jobs, and you do have more.
Well, how many people do you see? I mean, we talk about the poor and the homeless today, and you know, I look at your generation, I look at my mother's generation. You know, my mom doesn't know she was poor when she was growing up.
Yeah.
And you didn't know you were poor because everybody else was poor too.
That's right.
But you had a house, you went out and got a house. The only way your dad got a house the only way he could. He homesteaded some land and built himself a house. And it was Granddaddy's big thing to get that house on Round Lake. That was his property, and he wanted that more than anything in the world. That Compass Lake property.
You know, your granddaddy thought that was a mansion on the fat street. He did. He talked about that house.
But look what you had there. You had a home. You had room for all the kids, and they grew up. They were too busy to complain about not having something.
You know,
I mean, Mom tells stories about tying a thread to a June bug for a toy.
we would they'd tie a string to a June bug, and when I was a kid, you know what we would do? They had these big old horse flies. I don't know whether you ever seen one or not. That bites the horses, and we would see one bite. And we didn't have a horse; we had a mule, and Daddy couldn't afford a horse, and And we'd catch one of them big old flies, and we would take a piece of broom, or we didn't have no toothpick, take a piece of broom straw and put it through his wings and watch him fly away with a broom straw sticking through his wings, and he'd fly away. And we guessed he'd die somewhere after he flew away. But, and we would, when the figs were ripe, you could catch lots of June bugs. And we did that too, and then we taught Marjorie and them how to do it, and they had a good time. And you know, another thing Mama did for us is we had corn stalks, and we'd get the dry corn stalks, and we'd peel them, and have that path out of there, and we'd build cows. We'd take some of the peeling that we took off and make legs that stood out like this, and we'd cut off a piece of the path and cut him out a head, and then we'd take some of them that peeling and bend it, break it, and bend it to make horns, and we'd put horns on the cows, and we would take flour sack twine where we rolled out flour sacks. We got flour in 24-pound bags, and when they got empty, Mama rolled the thread out. Some of them had red thread, and some of them had blue thread. And we would take some of that same peeling off of the corn stalks and make pickets. We'd take that thread and make it just like a picket fence. That you got the wire and twist the wire between each picket. We used to put in picket fences. And we'd build us a picket fence and put cows inside the field. And that's the way we played. We played with them cows. We didn't have any dogs. None of us had dogs. Now Martin and them was a little bit better. They had a dog. They got a dog every Christmas. But I never owned a dog in my life.
You know, I look at all the things my kids have. You know, when I hear Brendan complain about being bored, and I walk into his room, and he's got more books in his room than many people ever had in their house. He's got this computer in his room that is just an amazing thing to work with. And he has time to do that. I mean, he has time to get up in the morning and practice and play the clarinet, and go to school, and it's the whole thing. People are complaining about how terrible things are, and I think it's because they're just not busy enough. If you've got time to complain, you never had time to whine about how life was.
Yeah.
You were busy from morning to night to keep everybody fed and clothed.
Mama, as soon as we got old enough, Mama made us get out there and work. She made us cut the grass out of the...
How old was older?
Huh?
How old was older?
I don't know how old I was when she first put me out there to hoe, but I must have been about 5 years old. She told it like this. She said when they were little, she said as quick as the child got old enough to carry a hoe, they put him out there in the field to work. Now I don't know how old he is to carry a hoe, but I guess some children matured faster than others, and they let them go out there and work. And they didn't send children to school. They put them to work. Mama said that her schooling was a very short amount. They built a little house with 2 doors, a door on each side for a schoolhouse. You know, the boys went on one side and the girls on another side when Mama was young. And they would line them up. You know, ring a bell, and you came in by the bell, and you went out by the bell. And Mama said that she lived about a quarter of a mile from the school, and she had to work in the morning in the field from daylight until it got time for school to take in. And she would, little boys wore long shirts until they was 4 or 5 years old. And she would wear her brother's long shirt. She called it a dress. She said that she'd get up, she didn't have a good dress to wear. He was younger than her, but he had a long shirt. She'd get put on his shirt and go to school. And she didn't have pencils and paper. She had a slate and chalk. And she'd draw pictures on the slate and write on it and figure on the slate. That's all they had to work with. And they had a blueback speller and a reader. And she went to school until she said she was in the 4th grade. And then they lived so far out in the country, they didn't have a school close by. And my oldest brother, when they carried him to school, he was 12 years old. And they said that the teacher gave him a test to see what grade he'd be in, and they put him in the 4th grade. That was how high Mama had gone to school. But you see now, they progress so differently until if you had a child and you knew the grade until the 12th grade, the schools would be changed so much you couldn't teach that child the same things that they were teaching at 12 years from then. You'd have to have different books and teachers and everything to teach your child. And back then, Mama taught all the first children out of her books, but see, I was the 5th child, and I had a hard time learning. And Mama didn't have any patience for me. Mama didn't have any patience. If Mama would have had a child that was a mongoloid, I bet she'd have killed him. She just wouldn't have known how to manage him. She weren't that she was cruel. It was just the nature to teach a child as they grow. And whenever she had one that was not teachable, she thought, she just thought they were crazy, and she didn't have much to do with them. And I had a high temper, and whenever she'd try to teach me something, and she'd start fussing at me, she didn't beat us, but she just cussed with her tongue, and I would just stop, and I wouldn't do another thing. She couldn't do nothing with me, and it was my fault and her fault too.
You were stubborn?
Yeah, I was a stubborn child. And now, you know, I mellowed out after I got about 15 or 16. And I learned to do everything Mama wanted done. And when I married, I was running that house. I was the last girl at home. And I was hesitant to leave because I didn't think they could do without me. But your granddaddy talked me into going. I told him I stayed till after Christmas. That's why we got married the next day after Christmas. He wanted me up there with him at Christmas time. He never did learn to love my parents very much, and he didn't care much about it. But I think I talked about him too. You know, I was hurt by all the things that happened to me. And some of it weren't their fault, but then when I was young, I did think it was their fault. And I didn't want, I didn't want, and when I married, I told him all the things that she had done to me. You know, Mama she ruled the house. I just was a servant. I just did what she said. And we would go around, and I did all the cooking, and I brought all the water from the spring. See, my next brother was 6 years younger than I was, and Mama spoiled him. And she made me be the waiter every time they needed something, and I had something in my hand that they wanted. She said, "Give it to him." I said, "I don't think she was aware of doing it." She loved him so much, and she said, I said, "That's mine." And she said, "You're mine, and what's yours is mine." Margaret said I said the same thing to her, and that's typical. We do say the same things to our children we've heard in our parents, and we're not aware of it. We don't realize that that's what we say. I do. I didn't realize I said.
Well, we don't have any other training on raising children except for the way we were raised.
Yeah.
You know, we think that we learn all this stuff from folks, but I think when we get frustrated with our kids, we go back to the same things that worked with us when we were frustrated.
You know, I learned. I was so good. I learned to do things that she said, and I cooked all the food, and got all the water, and got all my wood to cook with, because I was bored after everybody else left down to me, and them boys were with each other running around and playing, romping in the woods and swamps and places, and I just cooked for all of us and did all the work. And Mama, she was not she didn't give a lot of praises. And I always wanted to be praised for what I did, and she just didn't do it. And when some people would come to visit us, and we had side porches on each side of the kitchen, and people would hot and sit out there on the porch and talk. And I was in the kitchen cooking, and people would say to Mama, they said, "You are sure lucky to have a girl to cook for you, do the cooking. And Mama said, she don't do very much. Mama always said I didn't do very much.
Tell her I have
And
the
I
chicken
did
fried.
it.
You've got to get the,
Old, huh?
Yeah, and.
No reason to iron clothes in summer.
Yeah, and then we went to,
Where were you born anyway? I don't even remember.
I was born in Washington County. I was born in that same place. Daddy had two houses burned by fire. And they had one house burned before my oldest sister was born. They just had one son. And that time the house caught on fire and burned up everything they had. They thought that somebody else might have come and burned it. They was gone. But we don't have a house caught on fire. The house was falling in when Daddy got home. And all they had left was one quilt that Mama had on the wagon stick. And then they built another house, and that was the one where I was born. And after Mama, and then when my brother next to me was about 2 years old, we had moved to another house. Part of our furniture and everything, Daddy was going to farm at a place about 3 miles from where our home was. And Mama was over there at that house, and she was cooking on the fireplace. They had a chimney made out of sticks with dirt. They called it a stick of dirt chimney, but it was clay and sticks that went across and built the chimney and put that big old sticks of clay in there. And on the top, that clay would wash off. And one time the house caught on fire, and Mama took a long piece of timber. The house was high. And she took a long piece of timber and got up on the wood shelf at the side of the window where they put wood on the fireplace, and she pushed the top off of that chimney and got the fire put out. She couldn't climb up there, but she said all that dirt and sticks fell down on her head and just about killed her. And the next time, Daddy had a big ladder upside of the house, and for some reason he'd laid the ladder down on the ground to put some steps back on it that had broken off, and he never put the chimney back up. And never put the ladder back up. I'm saying the wrong word sometimes. And Daddy was gone, and Mama was there, and she was cooking some stuff in one of these spiders that's got legs to it. We called it a spider. It was like a Dutch oven, only you put some coals under the bottom and coals on top. You could bake biscuits in that thing, or bake sweet potatoes, or bake cornbread in there. And Mama was raised part of the time they cooked on the fireplace. And we'd moved the stove over to that other house, and some of us kids was over there, and Mama was cooking, and coals went up, sparks went up there and set the top of the chimney on fire. And Mama and who was there couldn't move that ladder to put it up to the house to go up there and put it out. So the house just burned down. Mama saved some of the furniture and stuff, and then Daddy built another house. Us kids, we was glad the house burned because we thought we'd get to move somewhere else. But Daddy wouldn't move nowhere else. He was going to stay there. And so people would give him old houses that was left somewhere, and they gave him an old house, and he tore it down and built it there. It had lumber. Somewhere I wrote a story. I don't know whether you had a copy of it or not. I wrote down started my life story and sent one to Tommy, and Tommy printed it out on the computer. And I told him about how they built those houses, and they built them. When they carried the logs to pine trees grew on that property that was this big through, and more. Some of them was this big through. And they cut those pines, and they hardly had any knots in them for 15 feet, 12 feet at least. And they seemed like it was 25 feet to me when I seen them when I was a kid, but I don't know how to measure. feet, and so I don't know how many feet they were high. But them pine trees, they sawed them down and they carried them to the lumber mill and they squared them off and cut all the sap off. And that sap was just piled up and burned. They didn't use it. And then they cut hot pine planks, they called them. And they used that for floor in the house. And then sometimes the pine tree planks would be a little bit green and they'd shrink some more and you'd have cracks at least a quarter of an inch or half an inch wide.
That's right.
And cold wind come through them, but we didn't care. We was used to it. And so Daddy, that house he built before I was born, he cut trees down off his property, and he had a little mule, and he had a coupling that went in his wagon, and he hauled them logs to a man that was about 5 miles away that had a sawmill on a water sawmill. And he sold the lumber for him to build that house out of. And then the next house, that house was burned, and then the next house was one that he just moved from another place. Somebody just gave him the old house, and he just moved it. It still had them wide planks for the floor. And our house would catch on fire, and Daddy would get up there and put it out, and we'd say, the Lord blessed us another time that we didn't lose our house. But you know, I was born in Washington County, and I was Mama's 5th child, and we were so poor. Mama didn't have many doctors and stuff, and she lived and got by, and even if she didn't have birth control, she didn't believe in it. She didn't believe in birth control at all. And
They have 3 brothers older than you, and then Jeanette.
I had 1 brother older than me and 3 sisters.
And 3 sisters.
And then after, see, Mama liked boys, really. She favored boys over girls. And she, when she got pregnant with Mose, she said she prayed for him to be a boy. And I never heard Mother pray vocally, but she read the Bible a lot. And she just didn't believe in women praying vocally. She didn't believe in women preaching or any of that stuff. She thought women were supposed to stay in the background and stay in their place and all this kind of stuff. And so when Mose was born and she had a boy, had another son, she was so proud. She was so happy. And so she dreamed before he was born that his name was Moses, that she was going to name him Moses. And she dreamed a lot. She believed in her dreams. And she had always heard that if you didn't name a child the name you dreamed, that it was bad luck. And so she named him Moses. And then somebody in our family, I don't know if it was one of her sisters or who, put Franklin onto it. And then when he went to school, he was the laughing stock of everybody. We were so poor, and they just, every one of them, the kids ran up and said, is your name Moses in the bulrushes? And see, all them people were religious people that went to the Methodist church, and they heard the adults saying that. The adults would come and say, oh, you got a Moses in the bulrushes. And the name Moses is in lots of people, but after he got grown, we just started calling him Moses instead of Moses. Mama called him Moses all his life, and all of her life, and then whenever he got in the service, he switched over to Frank, and he was Frank by all this. He married 2 times, and they called him Frank. And Daddy named my youngest brother Benjamin. And first he just wanted to be called plain Ben. But he uses that name Benjamin now in his writings and his addresses and stuff. But and Aunt Ruthie gave him the name Silas, Benjamin Silas. And then he went, and so he told me that he tried to get a birth certificate from Florida. Daddy wrote in his birth certificate, birth date and stuff, and he said that they had a Chambers on his name, Ben Chambers, and he had to get it changed. They did change it back to Silas, but he don't know how they got
Yeah, where did that come
Chambers on there. And but anyway, I was part of the time when we was little, they moved over to Compass Lake to Daddy run a store. Older brother and the two sisters could go to school. Nancy or I, either one, weren't old enough to go to school. And Nancy was sickly. She was a real puny child, and they didn't know what to do for her. And she died when she was 14. And I was devastated. When she was sick, I didn't know how sick she was, and she got out of a lot of work, and it made me mad. And I would fuss all the time. And we'd eat eggs at breakfast, and to have the eggs with raw egg in the plate. She said the smell of that raw egg made her sick, and Mama wouldn't make her wash dishes, and she'd make me wash them. And I would just get mad, and all children are lazy. And I would fuss and fuss and fuss about it. And so, but after she died, then I was devastated, and I sure did miss her. You know, we loved each other anyhow, regardless of how much I fussed. Mama would never let one of us go off and spend the night away from the others. She just made us all live together like twins or something. But when I got a chance to get married, when Granddaddy came by and started courting me, I didn't tell him. He wrote me letters a while before he ever come to see me. And
where did you two meet? How did you meet him?
Well, you see, my oldest brother used to stay with them, with Barney and his first wife, and work with him around the house. He was just kind of a gentle flunky. My oldest brother was one of these real slow people. He talked slow, and he was just slow moved. He could fix cars. He had a book that they ordered from Sears, and he went through that book, and Daddy bought some old track cars, and he took the best part of one old car and made a good car out of it so they could drive it around. You know, them old Model A's and Model T's was pretty easy to manage. You know, if you was a mechanic, you could learn how to put them together and take them apart and stuff. The cars nowadays, even Barney Lee can't work on them, but my brother, he was a good mechanic, and everybody seemed to like him, but he was just slow moved, and he couldn't get a job hardly. And so Barney took him over there to his house and helped him, let him work on cars for him, and he helped pump water down there around Lake. They had a pump or something there. Yeah, they had a pump for the train to pump water, and then Barney worked at Compass Lake with a coal chute. And so Teddy was good help around there, and he didn't give him much money. He got him some old clothes, gave him some old rolls he had, and Teddy was about naked and didn't have many clothes. And then Barney come over to our house and ate dinner one Sunday and brought Teddy over to see us. We just lived way down in the sticks out in the country, just where two little roads went to our house. And so Barney liked it out there. He was young then. That's whenever Betty was probably the baby. And so I couldn't stand it. I was young. You know, I was the youngest one of the girls, and he would say, he was always saying words to get attention, and he used a word like, by golly, he'd use that word all the time, and I couldn't stand him to use that word, and I just didn't like it. Now, my two older sisters, they liked him. You know, he was married and had a wife and all. We always formed our opinion about how we liked people that came to our house, and I said, I can't stand him. And then he went
We
to,
could.
whenever he come back and started courting me, he asked my brother how many was over there, how many more of them girls was still left over there at his house. And he said, there's one more over there. And he said, and she's not married, not like. He said, no. Said, she fusses too much. Said, she's the fussiest one. Said, she fusses all the time. And Barney asked him what my address was, and he wrote me a letter, and he said, he just wanted somebody to write to him because he was lonesome. And he could write real good letters.
Now, this was after his wife had died?
Yeah, she died.
And you were how old now?
You
were how old then?
I was 22 years old then. I weren't 22 then, but I was 22 in December. He started writing me about July, and we got married in 26th of December.
So you were 21?
Yeah, and he wrote me, and I wrote him back, and I told my sister Mary, Mom and Dad didn't know of our letter. I went to the mailbox all the time, and I didn't tell them. I couldn't communicate with them. And they never thought anybody was good enough for us to marry. So if anybody tried to court us, I never had any boyfriends. I might have had one or two slipping around boyfriends, but I never had any boyfriend until I married Barney. And so I told my sister Mary that I was going to have some fun and write. See, every man that got lost his wife was about, and didn't have his wife, they'd come and try to see me. They'd either write me a letter or come and try to talk to me, and I'd go hide and I would talk to them. And then whenever and then when I get a letter, I just throw it out. And Jeanette's husband wrote me a letter before he wrote her, and asked me to court him, and he was a lot older. He was older than Jeanette. And he was about 49 years old whenever Jeanette married him. And she was older than me. And one man lost his wife that had one leg. And he come to see me. And then he sent a letter by my uncle. And I wrote him a letter back and just told him off and said, I'm not interested one bit. And Uncle Linton said, now I just wrote you the message. And then whenever Barney wrote me, I was getting a little older and I was getting a little more lonesome, and I told my sister, I said, I'm just going to write and have some fun. I said, I need somebody to write to. And so I wrote him a letter, and then he started writing me all letters. And I had this little old book of all these little old poems that you send, that you write to, and you love letters like roses are red and violets are blue and chivalry is sweet, but not like you, and as sure as a rat runs a after you, the boy I'm after. Well, I thought it was real cute. I was 22 years old, but I was younger in my actions than 22. And then after we married, he made fun of me for doing that. It hurt my feelings, because I thought I see, you don't know what I was write to somebody you hardly know. And then I was writing these little poems at the top of the letters and all this kind of mess. And now I realize it was stupid, but
it was fun.
At that time, it was fun for me because I was young, but he was older. See, he was 41 years old, and he thought about how stupid it is, and he was trying to make me grow up faster, you know.
But in the end, who was really the one that was missing the boat? It was him. He should have figured out. He was 41 and you were 21.
Yeah, he should have, but he didn't.
And it might have been silly to him, but he was the one courting a 21-year-old girl.
Yeah.
He was the silly guy.
Yeah, but you know, in his mind, he was the smart one. And I don't worry about it now, because I realize that all of that can be overcome. But he had. But after we married, we'd catch these little catfish got them about this long, we would cook them. We'd skin them and cook them. And I called them mudcat.
Mother tell you about mine?
And one day I said mudcat, and he said, there's no such thing as a mudcat. Said they're catfish. All of them's catfish. And see, he didn't want to be classed as a fisherman that would go out and catch a mudcat. He wanted to be classed as a man who goes out and catches catfish. And he had a lot of hang-ups about what you call things that he did or worked with. And see, there was no hang-up to me. I was just plain whatever I had been taught, I said it. And he changed me a lot. And another word I used was, I said yellow instead of yellow. And one day, he stopped and he told me it was yellow. And another thing, I called cake recipes, I called them receipts. I said a cake receipt, and his niece was there with us. She took up for me. She said, she told him that it was receipt or recipe. You could use it for either way. But he always thought he was right. And so of course I did start saying recipe instead of receipt. But all my life when I was a kid, we called cake. We didn't have any recipes in our house, and when we seen one in a magazine or something, we called it a receipt, cake receipt. And it was just a general routine. And you know, if you went to somebody's house and you heard them talking that country stuff like I was telling you, you would have thought them people will never have good sense. That I wouldn't have nothing to do with them. But all I needed was to get away from there and get some better environment. And some people don't want to go to the trouble to take somebody out of a bad environment and think you're going to make a different person out of them. Even my cousins and all, when they ever got a chance to see me, they said, you sure changed since you left us. You don't talk like the same person. And anytime you change environments and go living in another place, you will change.
Well, everybody does. I mean, and getting married is going to change you anyway.
Yeah, you're going to change when you start entwining your life with somebody else. But you know, after we got married and we started living in Dothan, it was, he was a lot so fun, regardless of how mad he could make me. You would have to forget it. You would have to get over what he said to you that was bad, because he was so much fun. He always had something fun going. But one time, right after I come to Dothan, it was customary then for all the neighbors to come and meet the new person that moved into the neighborhood. So all of them knew Barney real well, and the ladies from the houses started coming to visit me. And one afternoon there was at least 3 or 4. They would come and stay a few minutes and meet me, and then they would leave. And then another would come, and he would introduce me to them, and I would stand up and say, I'm pleased to meet you. And I had never been formally introduced to people. I didn't know, nobody gave me any lessons on how you meet people. And then after they left and all of them, and we started settling down around the fireplace, he said, oh, you do know how to meet people. Now, he'd been worried. His mind had been sick because he thought, I'm American. See, to start with, if he had been a good, trustful man in the Lord, he would have never gone down there and got me. He said that he prayed to the Lord to find him a wife and a mother for his children. And there was women all around Dothan that was widows by divorce or death, and most of them had some children, and they chased after him. All of them, there was lots of women chasing after him, trying to marry him, and so he found me, and he decided to marry me, and he knew I was down there to stick.
The trick was you didn't like him. And he had to make you like him.
Yeah. And he said that when he made up his mind that he was going to, he said the Lord directed him to take me for his wife, to be a mother for his children. He was more concerned about a mother for his children than he was for who he might love. Because he actually could love anybody that would conform to what he liked or did. He would have been a sick man if he had got a woman that wouldn't conform with him, because he had a strong will.
Well, he already had 7 children too.
Yeah.
And that was, it's gonna be a lot harder to find somebody that can raise 7 children than it is gonna be find somebody who can be married to you.
But you see, Kevin, I didn't have any experience with children. I was one of the younger ones.
But you
And
have
Mama
been
never let me
cooking
do a
and-
thing with them 2 brothers.
But you've been cooking and keeping house for them for
I've
so
been
long.
cooking and keeping house a long time, but I'd never pinned a diaper on a baby till I
So-
married him.
So you came in at 22, and Barney was already 12,
Yeah.
so you were only 9 years older than the oldest child.
And Barney Lee was just as happy that I was there as the least one. He was just as proud as he could be of me. And Marjorie Martin said that Tommy, it's a lady at church that we've been knowing ever since, for years. She comes from the west and married a lawyer down there at Dothan. And she told people, she told my friend, she said, she called me Sister Cutchen, and she said, you know, Tommy, when he was young at school, going to high school, and somebody new came into the branch, and she said that Tommy always introduced me as his mother, and she said she always loved to hear Tommy introduce me, because Tommy always said, this is my mother, and I want you to meet her. And she said he said those words as free and as if that was his real mother. She said that the love expressed in his voice that she loved to hear. See, she had a stepmother, and they didn't get along good at all. And
See, but I never heard, I don't know if Betty and Jean and Barney really thought of you as a stepmother, but I.
Now, how old were all
no,
of
they
them?
didn't. They thought of me as their mother.
How old were all the
My mother
kids
never
then?
thought of you as
What,
anything
honey?
but-
How old were all the kids?
How old was who?
All the children when you married Barney
The
Lee?
oldest one was 12, and the youngest one was about 9 months. So
Yeah, Tommy would have been 9 months.
Tommy was born in the 9th of April, and we got married the 26th of December. I can't ever remember whether he was 8 or 9 months old.
He'd have been 6 months old.
Well, he was, he was April,
Or 8 months old, 8 months old.
about 8 months, I believe. But he hadn't started walking yet, and he was staying in a box that the guy at Holderville, he didn't have a crib. And Elmer had cut a mattress in two and put a mattress in there, and that's what he stood on and slept on. And the sun won out in the sun, didn't have no plastic going, and the sun won while the oven was wet. And but Tommy don't know anybody else.
Right.
One
Well,
time,
and Mom was what,
she was 4 years
4
old.
years old, and Faye was
Faye was 3.
3.
See, Marjorie, Faye was
So
1
they
year
really
apart.
didn't know.
Daddy was 6 and Miriam was 8 that year. She'd got 8 the year in August before we married in December. And Jean was 10. Jean was the cutest thing. Jean told me some jokes. Not jokes, but some real things that he had heard. He said, Mama, there was an old man that had a big fat stomach, and said that he got so, and he didn't think this was ugly at all. He said this old man couldn't see his thing, and said he cried because he couldn't see his thing. And it just tickled me so much, I just about laughed myself to death. And it was just so what he said, he was so serious.
10 years old.
Yeah, and he told me, he said, see, Emmer was a little bit off. Emmer lived with them, but she was a sweet person, and she'd do anything in the world for you. But she weren't exactly all bright. She was in one side of her was real bright, but the other side was real better. And she'd be working, she worked all the time. She'd sweep floors or work in the garden. And she'd be out there working in the garden, and Gene told me, he said, Mama, I want to tell you something about my Aunt Emma. He said she works in the garden a lot, and said, sometimes I'll sneak out there and I'll get up behind her where she's working, and said, she'll be just a-talking. Said she'll talk just as like, just like she's got somebody listening to her, and said there won't be a soul there. And he said, I call it talking to the boogeyman. So he said, don't pay her no mind. Said she just talks to the boogeyman a lot. And I thought that was so cute. He was so sweet. He was my pal. He'd come to me, see his mother took him. He was the meanest one, and he'd fight the rest. And so she carried him with her to keep him from fighting the rest, because nobody wouldn't keep him. Other people would keep all of them but him. And then whenever I come, it was a reprieve for them. And he stayed right around with me all the time. And right now, I would venture to say that Gene's my best friend. Gene's not stingy, and he's not selfish, and he always gives me something. Joyce is not selfish with me either. But he's not stingy a bit. And he always wants me to have something, you know, that's nice or good. But you see, I was having a little bit of trouble making ends meet there for a while, and he came and asked me how I was doing, and I had a book that I kept all the records in of all the money that was going out, and how he found out how much I had coming in, and he asked Barney to help me. He decided I needed about $50 more a month, and so they sent me $25 a month, and Barney sent me $25. Well, Barney has started managing my money now. I'm finally managing it. He's telling me what to do with it. Because I was getting, I didn't know what to do, and it was worrying me to death. He scared me at first, and I didn't like to trust him, but finally he gained my confidence, and he put my money up there with Fidelity, where his money was, where he had his savings, his retirement savings. And we put it up there for about 2 years, and it did make good profit when the interest went so low in the bank. But about 3 months ago, he put it in the bank. He found out that I could get my savings, get 7.25% with Compass Bank down in Mobile, but Dothan, none of the banks in Dothan would do that. And so I went, and now my bank is writing me letters and asking me to put my money in their bank for 7%. But I'm still getting 4%.
You're still doing better over in Mobile.
Doing better at Compass Bank. And, but Barney says that I can live on what I've got coming in now. And they quit sending me the $25 a month. Sadie, it just about killed Sadie. She don't dislike me. She's just insecure with what they got. They got plenty, and Barney says they got plenty, but Sadie don't think they have. You know.
Well, you know, look around at this. That seems to be a family thing. Everybody's worried about we don't have enough, we don't have enough.
Yeah.
And to me, that's just, it's crazy.
It is.
We've all got plenty.
Yeah.
We've all got something we can do with that. I mean, you look around in this house and you see 1, 2, 3, 4 TVs in this house here.
Yeah.
And you got a huge piano and, you know, none of our families.
God did that, baby. But you know, when I count back and see how little I've lived on in my life, and it makes me mad that I even get insecure. Because we used to have, I've seen days, lots of, in my whole life almost before I started working, that I didn't have a nickel to buy a drink. You could get a Coca-Cola for 5 cents, and I didn't have 5 cents to buy a drink.
And we look around here, and you look over there, you see how many cakes you've baked since you've been here, and how much food we've eaten, and how much food we haven't eaten and thrown away.
That's right.
And, you know, none of our families have any reason to worry about anything. I feel like, we've been able to go through all this stuff. It's not that important.
You know, if we could see the end from the beginning, we would have no cause to worry ever. I was thinking, when I was thinking about your granddaddy praying, he had a lot of faith in God and in his prayers. He did. And regardless of all his qualms and faults and failings, we all got faults and failings. I used to think how bad he was. But the longer I do without him, I think about how great he was. Because I'm sure that he saw my faults and failings too. But he never reminded me all the time that I was bad. He tried to build me up. He praised me for my cooking. He told me how good I could cook. See, when I come to live with him, I knew how to cook. I knew how to cook. But I made lima beans to please Daddy. And we cooked lima beans into thick soup and eat them with a spoon with cornbread. That's the way we had our lima beans. And when I come to Dothan, he had seen Frony, the old colored maid that cooked for all the section crew down there. They had a camp car that they moved up down the line where the man and his wife lived in, and she cooked for about 14 niggers that worked on the section. And he would go down there and watch them eat. She had a big old pot that was about this big and about this high that she cooked full of lima beans with white side meat in there. And they would get a bowl and go and get a bowl of that beans and a big old hunk of her baked cornbread and eat with a fork. Eat that. Them beans was thick enough you could eat them with a fork. And he wanted me to cook lima beans like Frony cooked. I learned to cook them that way, but it was hard because you had to regulate your heat so they wouldn't burn. It was a lot easier to cook them with soup in them and not have them burn, but he didn't want no soupy beans. He didn't want any.
I got a father that whines about lobby rice. Maria cooks very differently than what I grew up with. And it's hard to change what people eat.
It is hard. But if I'm the wife and I had in that house, I did everything I knew to please him. And one time, he'd ask people to come and eat with us, no matter what. We would just cook black-eyed peas and cornbread, and we sat down to eat a meal, and somebody would come to our door, and he said, "Come in here and eat with us." And they'd go down there and eat, and they'd eat and leave, and I said, "Honey, you embarrassed me to death. If I'd only known that she was going to ask somebody, I would have fixed something different." And he said, "Don't worry about pleasing them." He said, "They better be glad to have some black-eyed peas and cornbread." Said I wanted him to eat some.
I agree with that.
I wanted him to eat some of them peas the way you cook them, because they're good. And they did say they were good, and they went away and they were happy. But in my mind, I was being embarrassed. But he didn't care. He invited anybody that passed our door that wanted to eat at our house was welcome.
We're also worried about what people think about us. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
he didn't worry about what people thought. He said, that old house was so tumbled down, and after we started redoing it, he'd bring people in there and said, "Let me show you my house." It wouldn't be straightened up. And he'd carry them in there and show them where he lowered the ceiling and where he done all this, and it just make me so mad. I said, "Honey,
it's genetics.
honey,
You can't fix it.
Maria's not there.
He was so proud of that house.
Right now.
And he told me, I said, "Honey, it wasn't straightened up." He said, "Honey, they didn't care whether it was straightened up or not. They're proud of me for doing this, for working on this house and getting it better." And so I just let him. You just have to let him have his way. That's the only way to live with him. But I enjoyed him.
Take a left.
If I was to
I have to let her have her way.
If I was to go live my life over, I would take the same thing, I would do the same thing. The children were all so appreciated and all,
Well,
and we,
and you look at what your children accomplished too. I mean,
yeah,
you got, amongst all of them, they've done excellent things.
well,
with
they
their
came
lives.
from good genes. The Bullards and the Cutchen had a good gene. I was a good influence on their life, but I don't have, the things that I know real well. Like I know how to make quilts, and I know how to cook, and I know these things, but as far as the general stuff about politics and all that stuff, I don't know anything about it. I just can't learn about politics.
Well, let me tell you that when it comes down to staying alive and making your house comfortable, politics and that kind of stuff aren't real important.
It's not.
It's a lot of words. When it comes down to what you're going to do and how comfortable you're going to be in life, the things that are important is what you're going to eat, what you're going to wear, and where you're going to sleep.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's just details. You know.
Well, you know, I'm satisfied with my life. I am. And you know, when
See, now,
Granddaddy
that's all that's
died,
important.
he wanted me to be taken care of. But he didn't want me to, he tried to make that will, but the first one he made, he thought he was making it just right. He made it so that I couldn't sell that old house. And he thought it was a mansion, and he was giving it to me so nobody could talk me into selling it or take it away
Take it away
me.
from you. Yeah, he was trying to protect you.
And,
Now, is that the house you always lived in with him?
That White House on, by Cox's store?
Yeah. Yeah.
The one he lowered the ceiling in, added the bathroom to.
And so Barney Lee, him and Sadie was having a rendezvous, and he was the one executed the will, and he went off and let the will die 5 years, and the will wasn't no good.
Oh.
And then he had to change the house and fix out a paper, got a lawyer to fix the paper and put that house back in my name so that I could sell it or do whatever I needed to with it. And so that's what he did. And so then he come along and found me that house over there close to Miriam, and we had to sell that old house, but I had to put it in Barney's name in order to get that subsidized housing. So we got that subsidized housing, and then we finally sold that old house, and all Barney did was just sign the papers that sold it. They gave me the check for the house. We only got I believe we got 6,500. They took, so we got 7,000, and he took 5,500 for selling. That's what it was. And we got 6,500 for the house, and I put that into the savings. Granddaddy left $7,000 insurance. I didn't even know we had it. I forgot about it. And a check, while we was in such a turmoil there before I went up to Massachusetts, that check came and got thrown in a box with all the other mail, and we didn't even know it was there, and then somebody was going through the mail and they found it. And then we went down and deposited it in the bank. It's $7,000 life insurance. And it's still in the savings that I'm taking interest off of now to live on. And I just had it in regular savings for a long time. I was even scared to go into the savings certificate. And I finally found out they're paying 15% interest, and I put it in to get more interest. And then I just took the, I left it in there, and then Barney kept asking me to do something with it. And then he asked me to put some in he got me to put some money in the in another, stock. I forgot what it was in now.
Mutual funds or
And,
stock market?
and, we put, half of the saving into that. He said, I didn't want to, I was ducking. And he said, Mama, I'm not asking you to put all your savings in there, I'm just asking you to put half of it in there. And it was paying a good interest, it was paying 10% interest. It was going to North Carolina or South Carolina Light and Water Department
Oh,
place.
okay.
Yes.
And so they sent me $100 every 3 months, and I put it back into the savings. And then Barney decided to, I don't understand changing money. Barney understands it better than anybody I know of. But I'm still a little skeptical of it, and he put, so Barney sent me, he told us time to sell. The price of the stock went up. And we sold it, and I got, I don't remember how much now, but I got a good bit out of it. And then I put it back into the savings. And then, about 3 months later, he sent me some papers to put the money back into stock. And I looked it over, and it was the same amount that I got out of it. And I felt like I'm not making anything. And I just laid it aside and didn't do it. Then about a year later, he told me that he didn't like it because I didn't go ahead and put that money in the stock. And I said, but I wouldn't have made anything off of it. I just put it. He said, that's the price you have to pay when you play in the stock market. And so he didn't bother me anymore for a long time. And then he finally got taught when the stock interest went so low at the bank. It was going down to about 3-4%, and he got me to put it in at Fidelity. And when he first mentioned it to me, I was so nervous that day. And when Sadie told me, she talked. And it just got me so nervous, I just started crying. And then they didn't know what to think of me because they understood perfectly what they was asking me to do, and I didn't understand. And it just got me so nervous, I just started crying. And then they didn't know what to think of me because they understood perfectly what they was asking me to do, and I didn't understand what they was asking me to do. And see, it takes me a while for it to sink in. When you just show me down here that this is over here, this is what you're going to be doing, and I don't understand it. It takes me a while. I have to see it in action.
And the $200 cakes are
off of papers, I can hardly understand things. And that's one of the problems that I have.
We were just thinking if you
is,
wanted to bring some rolls.
see, Barney is seeing it so perfectly as a picture, and I'm not seeing it at all. And he knows, in his mind, I'm the most brilliant woman he's ever seen. And he just, he even thinks sometimes that I'm smarter than Sadie, but he don't understand how slow I am to catch on to these small things. It's hard, but after I'm just dense, and when it rings a bell, I'm just, it's just as plain as anything in the world, and I almost feel silly. I almost think, well, Lucy, what's the matter with you? Have you lost your marbles? But when I really found out what we were doing, then I felt ashamed that I had got so distressed that I started crying about something. It takes a lot for me to start crying. I don't do that very often. And, but after a while, you know, I guess as we live and learn, that's the way we become perfect, I guess, is through the church and whatever, but it's hard to me. Mother, like I said, her patience was worn out by the time she had me. Now, she had got revived with them 2 boys, and they were kings, and they were all right, but to me, she still put me down. I used to sit around and sing as a child. And I heard her say to Daddy one time that I was not carrying a tune, I couldn't carry a tune. she didn't try to sit down and show me, or sing with me and tell me how to carry a tune, but they always wondered why I didn't carry a tune. I guess they thought it was just a gift that children just started singing. And they do sometimes, but, and all my life, every time I open my mouth to sing, I'm always thinking, whoever's close to me, they're thinking, she can't sing. She just opened her mouth. And it's a bad feeling. But I might have been that way anyway if I hadn't heard them say that. But it seems to me like back in the back of my mind, it's them saying, she can't sing.
It only takes one of those when you're growing up.
I know.
Remember it forever.
And it can tantalize you all the days of your life. But and so I did have a lot of complexes, and when I married your granddaddy, he helped me a lot. He done a lot to get me out of some of that. He never did get me out of a lot of it. You know, some of it's indelible into you, and you don't get it out. But I learned to be so much different after him. You know, and the children, I learned so much from them. I learned more from them than I did from anybody else.
Well, isn't that the truth? Don't we learn more from raising kids? I mean, I don't think I was dumb by any standard when I got married, but I've learned so much more being a father. That's why God's plan is the way it is.
It's a blessing. You know, it's these things that we have.
And every child we've had, we've learned something new from.
Yeah.
Because they're not the same.
Well, they don't come here dumb. They come here with a good bit of learning. And when it gets entwined into your heart and your mind, and they just show you so much. And you know, Tommy, when Tommy was little, he was the sweetest little boy I ever seen. I have never seen a child. Tommy is more loved by all the rest of the family than any other rest. And one time I took Tommy with me down to see my mother. My mother had a stroke and she lived out in the country with my sister, but it was not as far out as I was raised. And we was walking about 6 miles. I couldn't, they didn't meet me. They didn't get I wrote a card that said meet me, and they didn't, because they didn't get my card in the mail. And so we walked about 5 or 6 miles, and just before we got up there, I was tired, and I stopped to rest. And he was jumping around with a lot of energy. He must have been about 5 years old. And he was jumping around and playing up and down the road. And he said, Mama, do you want me to go on and leave you? He wouldn't know where he was going if he hadn't had me with him. And I said, no, I don't want you to leave me. I couldn't be, I'd be left by myself. And he come down there and got a hold of my hand, and he said, I wouldn't leave you for $1 bill. And I thought that was the sweetest words I'd ever heard, and I didn't know he'd ever heard that word before, and it just floored me. He was so cute. But that night, we spent a night and come back home the next day. But that night, when we started to go to bed, he wanted to come home where his daddy was at. You know, he was really a mama's boy. He stayed with me all the time and didn't seem to have much to do with his daddy. I think mostly he just wanted to be at home when night come. But I finally talked him into going to sleep, and he got by all right that night. But he sure didn't. He didn't like being away from his daddy at night.
Being away from your own bed.
Yeah. I like my bed. I'm a pretty homely person.
Well, even now, I mean, it's fun to visit. It's fun to come visit with people, but it's always nice to go back home after you're done, isn't it?
It's such a blessing to have a home to go to. You know, I feel so sorry for the homeless because they are so, it's so sad to see people. I just can't imagine, even though we had a poor home, we had a home. And when I was a kid, I thought about running away. I always get mad with Mama, and she'd always say she'd give us $1 if we wanted to leave home. But one time my sister, younger than me, we planned on running away. And we got our clothes off the line, and we didn't have a suitcase. We put our clothes in the flour sack. And it was in the morning, and, I reckon Daddy had spent the night away from home, and he come, and he got home that day, and if we'd have run away, we would have met Daddy. We were scared of Daddy. And after Daddy came in, we were so glad that we didn't leave, and Daddy beat us up the road. Daddy would have beat us to death if we'd have tried to run away. We never did plan it no more. We never planned on leaving. You know, it's so funny how we, as children, we don't know the minds of a child, and we don't know all they plan until sometimes after they get grown, they'll tell us about it. And sometimes they forget and don't even remember that they planned all that stuff. But
I remember Allison at the door with her Filene's What's Filene's? Filene's was a dress store up in Massachusetts, and Allison one time took one of these dress boxes and she packed it up with her stuff, and she was at the door. I'm running away. That's it. I can't have what I want.
Massachusetts should only be like 7 or 8 now.
Yeah. She was ready to go. And I think my dad came down and said, let me open the door for you. Yeah.
Probably should.
well, you know, it's
Now
funny.
don't come back.
You know, when I married, Mama had always said, if you leave, I'll give you the last dollar I got. Mama never did have much money. And so, when I started to leave, Mama come out and gave me 75 cents. She didn't have a dollar, I guess, and so she gave me 75 cents. I didn't want to take it. And I didn't have a purse. And when I got married, I didn't even own a purse. And I gave that money to Barney to put in his pocket. And I never did see it again. He took that money and spent it. And Mama never did know it. She'd have been so mad with Barney, she'd have never liked him again if I'd have said, Mama, you know Barney took that money from me and he never did give it back to me. She would have really got mad. And we was going to the Bayline picnic. Used to, all the employees of the Bayline Railroad, every year, they would have a picnic down at Panama City Beach, and they'd get an excursion train in Dothan. And they picked up the employees all the way down to Panama City. There must have been 75 people or 100 that rode on that train, all free, go down to, then we went to Long Beach down at Panama City. And they had
Do you remember where that is? That's where whatever you call it.
they cooked, they had fish, a fish fry, and they had fish and chicken on the plate. Real nice, and good everything. And that morning, we were going down, I hardly ever owned a purse for years, because we were so poor. And
We don't have anything to put in it.
it didn't have no pockets. And so I was walking down the end of the railroad ties, going down to get on that excursion train, and I found a quarter laying down there. And so I told Barney to put it in his pocket for me, because I didn't have a pocket to put it in. And so we got down to Panama City, and they had these shooting galleries where you shoot the little ducks that's running through, and him and Barney Lee went out there. You could shoot around for like a dime. And when I got back home, I said, where's my quarter? And he said, oh, me and Barney Lee used that quarter shooting them ducks down at Panama City. Used my quarter. Didn't even say a word to me. He just went ahead and used my quarter and went on his merry way, just like he owned it. And so he never did give me my quarter back.
So he got a whole dollar out of you like that. He cut your 75 cents and your quarter.
Yeah, that wasn't all he ever got. He got every dime I ever had it, he wanted to use it. I used to save some money back to do something with for myself, and I would have $5 or $10 in the drawer, and sometimes he'd be looking in that drawer and he'd find my $10. And that very day, he'd think of something for us to go to town and get for that $10. He'd think of something and said, let's take that $10 and go down and get so-and-so. We'd do it. We'd use that money to get whatever he said. There wasn't no way that I could save money around him. And one time, I had some money hid in the drawer, and I was going to buy me a stove. I was going to pay cash for me an electric stove. I was cooking on an old oil stove. And so he found that money, but he didn't tell me. And so he talked to Ethel all the time. Ethel's his niece that lived up the street, Nixon's wife. And so he would go up there, and so I finally got him started, and we repainted my kitchen, and then I bought the paint, we repainted it, and then I had some money to buy me a stove. Then you could buy a stove for about $100. I think you could get one for less than $100. Anyhow, I went down and picked me out a stove, and I didn't have enough to pay for the whole stove, so I about paid down on it and paid it out for the rest of the time I paid for it. And Ethel said, after I got my house fixed, we heard about it, and they was come down to see my stove and everything. And Ethel said, Uncle Barney told me you had some money hid back, that he found that money in that drawer, and he knowed you was going to do something with it. And he was proud to have the house fixed, but he just never could have any extra money to do nothing with. But most of the time, just small amounts, like $10 or so, he'd find a way. So I hid some money back in my cedar chest, and I had it hid in some kind of a little box where he never did look in. And I had $80 saved back, and I'd been saving it for 2 or 3 years, and just saved it for some reasons I might need some money sometime. And so when he divorced their first marriage for him, because they just don't want to go through the trouble to do it again.
Well, everybody thinks that divorce is a cure for what's wrong in a marriage, and it's not. I mean, first of all, any marriage that's having
It's two
problems,
people.
it's
Two
both of
people
them that have
involved.
the problem, and they're not going to cure the part that was on their side by going through the divorce. And then once they find out how tough divorce is, maybe those problems in the marriage weren't quite so bad as they thought they were.
You know what I thought? My husband managed the money, and he spent the money, and he got this checkbooks, and he got canceled checks back, and he'd go out to John Cox's in that store and cash a check for $5, and it'd get gone. In 2 or 3 more days, he'd cash another check for $5, and he'd have a whole stack of checks, and we'd be paying to cash checks. Then it was like $1.59. It's a lot more now, but he would, and so I couldn't see the canceled checks. He'd get the checks while I was at work, and he would stick them under the side of the bed. I knew where they were, but I never bothered to bother them. And I'd go in there, and I would come home, and I'd say, how much money do we have? And he said, we got enough. What do you want? That's all he ever said. He never did tell me how much money we had, and when he died, I didn't know how much money we had in the bank. I didn't no more know than a stranger. I didn't no more know than somebody else. And so, but here's the secret. I thought, after he died, and I went to Massachusetts and stayed 3 months, and I was thinking all the time that I got to go back home and go to work. I can't stay here all my life because I'm young and I got to work. And so I come back home and I started to work, and all the time I was thinking while I was up there, I was thinking, he really wasted money. I loved him, and I was sick and devastated because I lost him. But in my mind, I was just saying, he wasted the money. He wrote checks all the time. Every time I seen them checks, I saw all them little checks he wrote. And I would tell him, I said, honey, why don't you write checks and get all the money, figure out how much you're gonna need and write a check for the amount and not be paying out money to write checks. I said, that's a waste. And anyway, I was thinking, when I get home and I start to work, I'm gonna save some money. I know I can save some money. And so I come back home with that in mind, that I was gonna do it. I come back home and I started working and I started trying to save some money, and every payday something took it, something took it, something took it. I couldn't save one dime. One year we got a raise in the minimum wage, and I saved up like $40 or $50 extra in my checking account. I never tried to put it in savings. And you know, the next year it all got out because the cost of living went higher, and it took it all and that extra to get by. And I found out that he didn't waste money. That's one thing I found out. He did spend more than I did, but he was taking care of the house. And so he would borrow money from me to go fishing. I would keep, after he got retired, he only got $172 a month, and I had to, before then, I never put my check in the bank. I would just save my money out, buy groceries or whatever I wanted to. And he had a checking account, never had my name on it for years, and finally put my name on it. And he said, and so after he come, so after I would save out $15 for my incidentals to just buy little things with, and I give the rest of my check to put in the bank with his check to pay the bills with, and so I would buy. Sometimes people would bring vegetables up there to the plant, and I'd buy like some squash or cucumbers or something that they had to sell, or oatmeal. And so he would come, and so after we done, and sometimes he'd be going on a fishing trip and he wouldn't have any money. It'd be night, he couldn't write a check, and he said, have you got any money? And I said, yes. And he said, let me have $5 to take me fishing, and I'll get some money and pay you back. And so he would not give it back to me, and so one day I'd say, I want my $5 back. And he said, what are you going to do with it? What do you want with it? And I wouldn't have nothing. And I said, it just made me so mad. I said, I just need my money. And he said, well, I'll get it for you tomorrow. And sometimes he wouldn't. Sometimes it'd be the next day. And it took me a long time to realize what he was trying to say. If I had owed some money, or specifically that I needed it for, he'd go out and make arrangements to get it for me. But if I wasn't going to do nothing with it, he wouldn't have to hurry to get it for me. But I would think, at that time, I would think, he's just keeping my money and not giving it back to me. And I would just be mad as I could be. But he really weren't. He weren't planning on just keeping it. But when he would say, what are you going to do with it? And it was my money to start with. Why did I have to count to him what I'm going to do with it if I want it back? But,
You know, it's interesting to hear. Money's always the thing that couples talk about, and they always say it's not that important, but it's probably the thing that causes more trouble in marriages than anything else, is who runs the money. And I don't know, I think it's easier for me not to get involved and just let Maria run the money and tell me how much we need, and she pretty
Well,
much
you know,
tells me you
Jane-
can't buy that, and yeah, you can buy that, and why do you want that?
You have to have it.
that's the way Jean and Joyce does. Joyce mostly takes care of the money. Jean, every year, up until now, up to this year, every year, when they change their savings, they give me $300 instead of giving me the $25 every month. So last February, they gave me $300 for my help in my income. But Barney thinks I can live all right now the way it is. And so him and Sadie stopped theirs. But see, Gene's already paid his for this year till the first of next year.
So that's how much
the
they
last
give.
time
Did they give you any other things?
Huh?
They give you anything else other than just that?
No, George? No, they don't give me nothing except at Christmas. They give me like $50 and she buys me something, like a new dress. She buys me a pretty dress and she gives me $50.
So
to
you
spend.
basically make it on your savings account and your interest and stuff, and do you get a pension still?
What?
Do you still get a pension?
Yeah, I get Barney's Railroad Retirement and my Social Security. The Railroad Retirement pays me more than it paid him. He only got $172 a month, and I get $244, I believe now. The cost of living has come.
Social Security give you a whole, $900 or so, the whole, because you work, so you should get your Social Security, right?
My Social Security comes through the Railroad Retirement, but I get it. It's on, I got direct deposit, and it's on my check each month how much it is, how much comes from Railroad Retirement, and how much comes from Social Security. My Social Security, he paid dollars into the Railroad Retirement where I paid pennies for years. I only paid like 15 cents out of a payday or something, just a small amount. And the Social Security pays more accordingly than the Railroad Retirement does. He got it real bad. Right after he retired, the people on the railroad that were working, they made a law that gave them a big raise in railroad retirement, and because of the years that he retired and the years that he worked, he didn't even get a raise. He was retired 5 years and he never got a cost of living raise in that railroad retirement the whole time from the day he started drawing his railroad retirement until he died. He never got a raise. It was really pitiful. He really had it bad. As far as that goes, I'm having it a lot better than he had it all the years he lived. He didn't have it good.
How much do they give you on Social Security though by being through that way and you working and all that?
I don't remember how much it is now, but it's like
Is it $1,000?
no, I don't get $1,000. I get like $600, I believe. Seems like it's
But,
$600.
but you could go either way because you earned your Social Security.
I earned my Social Security. They ain't nobody gonna take that from me.
Right, that's right.
But you see, I was born in 1916, and in 19, they made a law after that the ones who were born after 1920 got a big cut. I got 80%, I believe it was. And then the ones after that got a big cut. There was my neighbor across the street was younger than I was, about 2 or 3 years. And she may have been 4 years younger than me. But she worked for Sony. She worked at the Hoser Mill, and all years she worked somewhere. She worked a lot more years than I did. And then she started working for Sony, and she made big money for Sony. And she worked there about 6 years or more before she retired. And when she started counting her retirement, she went around the town to put in for her retirement. And she was gonna draw less than I was drawing, and I only worked for the minimum wage most of the time. And he couldn't understand it, she couldn't understand it. He come over and asked me how much my check was, and I told him, and he said, Pearl's not gonna draw that much. And I said, she should draw more than that. And then I found out later that it was according to the years that she was born, and they cut it back. It made me sick. I feel sorry for the ones, they're fighting now up there in Washington. They're trying to get that money. One time after I retired, they sent me a check for one, let's see, it was $1,099. It was almost $1,200 they sent me. And in a note they sent with it, they said it was a payment of back pay. I got that about 8 years ago or more. And somebody had been fighting in Washington for some money that we didn't get at our retirement time, and they paid me some back pay. They said that was the one and only check that I'd ever received. I hadn't received any more, but I didn't even know we were fighting for anything when they paid me that check.
Didn't hurt though.
I'm really actually faring as well retired as I was when I was working. Be it due to that money I get from real retirement, it helps out.
But one of the things your company did, from what I remember, is they would lay you off, in essence, had an agreement with the state, and the state would then pay you for vacation. And they didn't have to pay vacation. And then they just start back to work. And
Yeah.
they do that a lot and that kind of thing.
So you basically collect unemployment or something?
Yeah, for 2 weeks or so, and then
They'll lay me off 2 weeks a year. 1 week, you got a 1 week waiting period. You sign up in July. Some got their check in July and some got their check in December. But my check come in December. I signed up in July and had a waiting period. That week I was off, and then I was a week off in December. And I got another check 1 year. We were off 2 weeks to Christmas, and we got 2 weeks unemployment. And Mr. Grossman would never let us off 2 weeks, because he said they couldn't afford it. They couldn't afford it, took too much out of their Social Security benefits.
Kevin's very own potato salad with no celery in it.
Ooh.
How can you be so weird as to not want celery in your
No
potatoes?
kidding.
I'll step on one part of it and you can hold
Show
it.
the camera the balloons, Delaney.
The camera, the balloon, see?
Take them right by
Happy
grandma.
birthday.
Go to the bathroom.